Listen, I did film and television studies at university for 3 years. I spent hours reading countless books and articles on subjects spanning from film all the way to television. Not a single one mentioned Hugh Grant once.
I achieved the hardest qualification across any university or college ever, a 2-1 in history. Let me tell you, the only thing that I learned was that we, as a society, have a history of denying and neglecting Hugh Grant's artistic and cultural relevance, not just in this country, but in the entire world.
I met Oscar at a Hugh Grant-themed event I put on at the Students' Union.
It felt as though Diggory and I were the only ones there, and we agreed that there was a Hugh Grant-shaped hole in academia.
We decided to put it right ourselves. We want to show people that he's an icon in acting.
We want to show people he's more than just a bumbling posh guy.
I'm Diggory Waite.
And I'm Oscar Beardmore Gray. And this is...
Taking Hugh for Granted.
Hello and welcome to Taking Hugh for Granted, the podcast in which two scholars watch every single film starring Hugh Grant in the attempt to answer the simple question: is this film taking Hugh for granted? Is this film good on its own, or does it rely on the bumbling Brit for its acclaim? I'm Diggory Waite, and I'm joined as ever by my colleague and fellow Hugh Grant academic, Oscar Beardmore Gray. Oscar, how are you doing today, mate?
I'm doing great, Diggory. That was a fantastic intro. You didn't screw it up that time.
Listeners won't know unless they think I screw up every time. Listeners won't know that every time I get that wrong. But unfortunately, Oscar, I'm going to give you a look behind the curtain. I did write it down this time.
You did? Oh, God,
I know.
okay.
I know. You
You're
judge it by
cheating
heart.
now.
I know. It's not really fair. But
Well, it saves us about half an hour every time, I guess. So.
Exactly. It takes me half an hour to get it right, and then by that time we're like, we're out of time. We've got to go. We haven't even mentioned the film that we're watching today. It's Pirates, Band of Misfits, otherwise known as Pirates: An Adventure with Scientists. What an awful name.
It's a bit like, I think it's because it's like the Philosopher's Stone and Sorcerer's Stone in Harry Potter. The American audience couldn't understand the longer name, so they had to shorten it.
Wait, which one's so Band of Misfits, is that the American one?
Yeah, and the Scientists.
And we've got An Adventure with Scientists.
Adventure with Scientists sounds so lame.
I'm sorry. If I'm a kid and you're like, come on, Diggory, little Diggory, and you go, and my mum's like, we're going to go to the movies, and I go, what are we going to go and see, Mummy? And Mummy goes, we're going to go and see an Aardman film, and I go, like Wallace and Gromit, and she goes, yeah, and I go, that's so exciting, what's it called? And she goes, Pirates, and I go, and she goes, An Adventure with Scientists, and I go, take the keys out of the car, we're going back inside. I'm going to do anything else. Scientists. Anyway.
Should we have a synopsis?
Let's have a synopsis, yeah.
The Pirates, Band of Misfits, directed by Peter Lord, co-directed by Jeff Newitt, and released in 2012. A pirate captain, voiced by Hugh Grant, sets out on a mission to defeat his rivals, Peg Leg Hastings, voiced by Lenny Henry, Cutlass Liz, voiced by Salma Hayek, and Black Bellamy, voiced by Jeremy Piven, for the Pirate of the Year award. The quest takes the pirate captain and his crew from the shores of Blood Island to the foggy streets of Victorian London. Arrrrr.
Right, Oscar, 2012. Pirates, Band of Misfits. Hugh Grant plays the pirate captain. No real name, just referred to, as always, as the pirate captain. What did you think of Hugh Grant's look in this film? Hugh Grant's character, and Hugh Grant's, most importantly, I suppose, his voice.
Well, I mean, like you said, this is the first film, I believe, that Hugh is a voice actor. And I'm just going to throw it out there. He does a great job.
The best bit about being a pirate isn't the looting or the cutlasses. It's not the grog or the scurvy or the scantily clad mermaids. The best bit about being a pirate is ham night!
At first, I was a bit kind of like, I'm not sure about this, because Hugh, you think of Hugh Grant, and you don't necessarily think of pirate as the first thing. It's not what comes to mind, and that's definitely what you're thinking for the first 5-10 minutes of this film. You're like, I don't think Hugh's voice goes with pirate captain. But yeah, he actually really grows into the part for me, and he's got an enormous bushy beard. and then
good.
he's got the classic kind of captain pirate attire, the long jacket, the hat, and then if you audiences out there, Wallace and Gromit, he's sort of Wallace and Gromited, if you know what I mean. He's got the sort of googly eyes and that kind of thing, and he's made out of clay, I guess. But yeah, I think he looked great in this film. What did you think?
Yeah, it's a lovely leading character. He looks like a pirate captain. I mean, they all have their different. These pirates all have their different, like, what's the word? They all have their different personalities. We've got the albino pirate. We've got the pirate who wears a scarf. We've got. I'm trying to think of what other ones there are. They all look kind of classic, but he looks like the captain does. The captain is always meant to be tall, wearing that long floaty coat, big luscious beard, which he's so proud of. And also his character's great because he's a bit of a buffoon. The man cares only for one thing, and that's pirating and gold and glory. But he's not completely greedy because he's not completely successful. He's a
loser basically. What I thought was funny about this film is that in some ways I think the pirate captain reflects Hugh Grant in some ways. He's a bit vain. He thinks quite a lot of himself.
yeah.
And sometimes he doesn't take himself too seriously.
And also does he have all the beans to back it up? And at first you might think maybe not, but maybe by the end you think, yeah, he does. And also I think another thing about Hugh is I think Hugh presents a very hard exterior sometimes about certain things. But I think if you dig deep down, I think Hugh Grant has a very gooey, soft centre. And I think this pirate captain, as you say, is no different. Funny that you say that, though. He was asked this. He was like, what do you and the captain have in common in an interview? And he was like, nothing. so I mean, maybe not, but it's interesting because he was asked, what kind of, because a lot of people, American audiences really liked it, and a lot of them said it had a very British humour, and the interviewer asked Hugh, what do you think is a British humour? And he said, I think it's self-deprecating, but the idea of that loser, the sort of like there's comedy and tragedy and an underdog,
the plucky underdog.
Exactly, and I think. And there's no shame. I think he even said there's no shame in being a bit crap. He plays those kind of characters quite well.
So right. Well. And in some ways, the character he plays here is very similar to, his classic. It's not too far removed from the Notting Hills and, that kind of thing. The plucky underdog who has absolutely no chance in getting what he wants. In this case, he wants to be Pirate of the Year.
Exactly. I also think that there was a few winks from the film in its script as to who was playing the main role, because there was a few like sort of sexy, sexual comments every now and then. Did you pick up on those as well, where it was sort of like
a little bit, yeah,
where he'd say things like, let's go back to. This is a good example. One of his crew is clearly a woman who's wearing a fake beard, and she just wants to be part of the crew, and wants to be a bloke. And he's like, she says something to him, and he's like, "Thank you, strangely curvaceous pirate," or something, and things like that. And he will reference. Weirdly, this pirate has a sexuality, and he's a bit of a bawdy sex bloke who clearly just loves women, but which is odd, and I think that's a dimension to his character. I wonder whether it would have still had it not been Hugh Grant.
Well, you're listening to Hugh Grant taking Hugh for granted on the radio. Hugh Grant taking Hugh for granted. Oh, the podcast show.
What did you think of his accent? Because he does put on a little bit of a sort of piracy twang. Do you think he did a good job of that?
Yeah, he was actually asked about this in the interview. Someone said to him, how did you find your pirate voice? And Aardman specifically said they didn't want this, him to go all full pirate, because obviously your classic pirate is I'm me hearties.
Definitely didn't want the classic cliched pirate voices.
There wasn't
this
Arrrrr
exactly
involved.
Didn't want that. At the same time, there was no question I couldn't do it in my own voice, because you look at him physically, he's this big bearded barrel-chested guy, so I had to actually act. I had to create a silly voice and use that.
How do you find that out? How do you discover that when you're in a booth and not acting, in a regular movie setting?
Well, really, it's no different from any other film. I just read the script, alone in my kitchen and experiment with voices. And I found one I quite liked and went in, and the director quite liked it, and that was it.
I think because my ears were very much listening for Hugh. I was very much listening for all the different people like Martin Freeman and, well, we'll get into some of the other people later. So I was listening out for the different voices. But once I settled into it, I was like, it's a lovely little voice. It's like this Hugh is still in there. And so it was perfect.
It did make my imagination wander to what Hugh Grant would have been like if he was playing Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh my word. Oh my word. Imagine that. Just him caked up in all that makeup and stuff. Oh my word, that would have been amazing.
Look over there. Hugh Grant's in a Pret. Look over there. He's holding a baguette.
Hugh Grant wants to win Pirate of the Year award, which I also think is just what a great setup for a film already. Already I'm just smiling from ear to ear, like this is ridiculous. But yeah, I suppose at this point, I think I want to speak more about Aardman and the fact this is an Aardman film. I mean, do you have any thought? What did Aardman mean to you as a child? I'm guessing, like any British kid, you were like, Aardman's the real deal. I know you don't know many production companies, but like Aardman,
I think personally, I mean, I wasn't too well versed in it. I obviously knew and watched all the sort of Wallace and Gromit and that kind of thing. I mean, that's just kind of rite of passage for many young kids, especially I guess our generation.
Yeah.
I remember distinctly going to see Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were Rat.
Yes, mate, that was our age bracket down
definitely.
to a T.
I think that was kind of 2005 or something around then.
Yeah.
And actually, I can't believe I never saw this up to now, but I only recently watched Chicken Run.
It's chickens, you dolt! Apart from you, they're the most stupid creatures on this planet. They don't plot, they don't scheme, and they are not organised.
I've not seen it till now.
I'd only saw it for the first time, I think, last year.
Oh, mate, what a film, though.
So I missed out on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's some of the most sort of highly intense and difficult animation, and everyone who works with them has great respect for their work. I mean, how about you? I feel like you were a bit of a mega fan, maybe.
Well, I mean, just because, like you say, I mean, when you're a kid, I grew up on Chicken Run. You watch all the Wallace and Gromit films. Obviously, Shaun the Sheep is in there. These are all names that I think are, like, in some ways steeped in British culture, like especially like our TV and film exports. And so I feel like in some ways, like, when you're in an Aardman film, it's almost like when you get the call up to go on Desert Island Discs. It's like, shit, I made it. If I'm a British actor and I go on Desert Island Discs, I'm like, yeah. And when you're in an Aardman film and they're like, they come to you and so for Hugh to be the lead of an Aardman film, I think is really cool. And also, especially now he's got kids, it's a kind of film that he can stick on for the kids and they can actually enjoy it.
And I'm sniffy about scripts. I turn everything down. It's very difficult to get me out of bed to work at all.
Yeah. Okay.
But this one was funny, really funny. I mean, it was, just silly and Monty Python-y and kind of profoundly British mad. And it was being made by Aardman, who, you have to be dead to not like Aardman.
Yeah, it's really weird how this film slightly goes under the radar. It didn't. It's very well critically acclaimed, but it doesn't. I admit I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, neither.
And I don't remember it being that big of a deal. But it's the kind of film. These films take ages to make, so I'm surprised because it's a really good plot. It's got some great people in the cast, and it's what's brilliant about these kind of films and Wallace and Gromit and that kind of thing is that it doesn't really matter if you speak English, Chinese, Spanish, whatever it is. Like the plot is just the characters and the animation is so good that you don't need language to really get the film.
You could really have the film on silent.
Well, I'm taking you for granted. Well, I'm taking you. Well, I'm taking you
as the plot goes on, Hugh, the pirate captain, is going for the Pirate of the Year awards, and he bumps into Charles Darwin, which I think is brilliant. There's a great sort of, for us history fans, there's Charles Darwin as Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria hates pirates. Charles Darwin is kind of, it's funny because in history you kind of think of Charles Darwin as this great intellect, but in this film he's a bit of a sort of, he's a bit of a nerd basically.
Yeah.
He's got no mates.
He's an incel. He's an involuntary celibate, and he literally, the first time we see him in his cabin on his boat, he's going, "Oh, I'll never get a girlfriend."
And he's and they use another classic sort of, I guess, trope of history, which is the dodo. The dodo is basically the most important part of this film. Charles Darwin is searching for the dodo to impress Queen Victoria because he's fallen in love with Queen Victoria.
Yeah,
and Hugh uses the dodo that he has, called Polly, to try and get some bounty because he's looking for gold to win the Pirate of the Year award, and Charles Darwin offers him riches if he can bring the dodo to Queen Victoria.
And now I'm being attacked by pirates.
I'm the pirate captain, and I'm here for your gold.
There was one bit in this film that reminded me, the fact because, like you say, Hugh Grant has this pet, what he called Polly the parrot, and at the beginning, when Polly the parrot was introduced, I already fell in love with the little way it was animated and stuff, and I thought it was hilarious. But I remember thinking to myself, that doesn't look like a parrot. And when it was discovered later on, when Charles Darwin goes, "Oh, that parrot is no parrot, it's a dodo. It's supposed to be extinct." I remember thinking to myself, yes, I knew it wasn't a parrot. Which I was thinking to myself, this is a kids' film. It just reminds me once when I was at work. And an old boss of mine, she brought her kid in, and he was doing his maths homework, and he was like, "Mum, can you help me with this?" And her mum, she was like, I can't. Diggory, is there anything you can help? And the kid went,
"Oh God."
No, yeah, exactly. And the kid goes, "Oh, can you help with this?" And it was great because I did it. It was a triangle, and you had to work out. It was two angles, and you had to work out what X was. And I did it. And I remember I was running around the room being like, "I worked it out. I do maths." And she was like, "Diggory, my son is 7 years old." It's not a good thing that you can work out the maths of a 7-year-old.
It's also great that the dodo, because obviously you think pirate, you think that the pirate ship has to have a bird,
exactly,
has to have a parrot, and then they use that great stereotype of the parrot and change that into the plot of the story, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm so glad, because honestly, the way that Polly the dodo is animated, so often the air of of indifference on its face is actually so funny. In some ways, even though it's a bird that doesn't speak, even before I knew it was like the major plot point of the film, I was just watching it the whole time, because in some ways it's indifference, and the fact that it just doesn't care and it's unwavering as to what everything else that's going on around it, which is in this crazy mad film with pirates and stuff. There's just this bird throughout it that just does not care. I just found hilarious. And it just speaks to some of the facts about Aardman. The average film takes about 3 months to film. This film took about a year and a half. And an average film, they'll shoot 2 scenes a day. They're shooting 40 scenes a day for this, but obviously only seconds in a day. They'll be lucky if they get a second done in a day. They might get 4 seconds done a week. And you think these little movements of that bird and all the different characters have to be done by hand, of these clay animators, and I resonated so much with that bird. I just thought the people behind that, they are absolute geniuses.
If you're an animal, Diggory, you'd be an extinct dodo.
Savage, absolute savage.
Somebody after some transition music. Right. That'll do. Good.
What did you think then of Queen Victoria? I mean, I thought Imelda Staunton did a fantastic job, and we haven't even said that David Tennant does the sort of incel Charles Darwin. What did you think of Victoria?
I thought Queen Victoria, that was a really excellent portrayal, because I think when you think of Queen Victoria, you do think of a sort of fiery undertones. You know, she's the queen of the empire.
Yeah.
She's got to have something about her, and she shouts a lot.
Yeah.
And you know, she doesn't take no for an answer, and she wants to kill every pirate out there, and you can kind of imagine Hugh Grant, like little meek Hugh Grant, being like, "Oh, please don't kill me."
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought she was excellent, and David Tennant too. He puts on a real accent for this, because he can't, you know, obviously famously very very Scottish, and he's kind of got a Scottish accent, but not so much here. But I've got a newfound love for David Tennant.
Really.
Having recently watched Broadchurch,
of course.
He has a great line in Broadchurch where she goes, "Bloody Twitter!"
I think I've seen that clipped online.
Bloody Twitter! It's a great video. You should watch that online.
I bet they've probably done that as well, knowing that would happen. Because obviously I've seen it on Twitter, because people will obviously tweet it. Bloody Twitter. But I have to say, Imelda Staunton for me is the best voice actor in the film. I think the sinister nature of which she plays the role of Queen Victoria, like every time she's on screen and she's speaking, I was terrified. And I just thought as a kid, if you were watching that, perfect performance. I mean, that is the perfect antithesis to what Hugh Grant is. You know, this like bubbly, silly pirate versus this evil lady who, once again, David Tennant, Charles Darwin is like, "I like her buns," and and obviously Hugh Grant's like, "Yeah, I know, I get it," which I thought was funny.
Even for little old me. No. I'm afraid not, ma'am. No, you see, there is nothing more important to a pirate than his trusty Dodo. She is the feathery heart and soul of the boat.
Did you say pirate?
Pirate? No. Scientist. Yes, good old science. Can't get enough of it. Mixing stuff together, test tubing and Bunsen burning. He's no scientist. He's a Girl Scout.
He's no Girl Scout. He's a pirate.
So the film culminates in the fact that Queen Victoria wants this dodo. Hugh Grant's got the dodo, and Hugh Grant wants that cash. And Queen Victoria realises this, and she thinks, right, I'm going to offer Hugh Grant loads of booty, and then he can, for the dodo. Obviously, he gets all the booty, but then his crew are like, Hugh, we don't care about the booty. We care about Polly. She's a beautiful little bird. Hugh realises this and goes to get the bird back. Why does Queen Victoria want the dodo so bad, Oscar?
It's a pretty shocking revelation, Diggory.
It's horrible.
Horrible. Even for a kids' film, this is scary stuff. Basically, Queen Victoria. I mean, sadly, you kind of imagine this might be a thing in real life. She has a club that enjoys eating exotic animals. So she's on this boat with these other world leaders. In the cells below deck, we got a rhino, we got a panda, we've got a cheetah, and then we got Polly the dodo, and Hugh with the help of Charles Darwin, they head off, and then they land on the boat, and it's a sort of epic dogfight at the end on this ship, and Queen Victoria she has two swords, and Hugh's unarmed and somehow manages to kind of
wriggle away.
Yeah, and poor Charles Darwin keeps on getting smacked in the head. He's just out for the count.
Me, my dodo.
Now come on, Vicky, be sensible. It's just you, a tiny queen, against me, a dashing terror of the high seas. On guard.
Oh dear, poor defenseless me. Oh, what is a girl to do?
Now, steady on. Now, careful.
Do you know why I really hate pirates?
Childhood trauma, was it? Bitten by a pirate when you were a baby? Beard envy?
It's because you're out of date. You're dinosaurs. All that romance of the seas.
But I tell you what, the fight scenes and the way they're choreographed and stuff in this film are just brilliant. Like, also, not only are they brutal, there are some like when you actually think about what's being done to some of the characters in this, they really are getting messed up. And yeah, it's quite. When I think about it now, it's quite a violent film. A lot of pirates are stabbed and killed, but it's great fun nonetheless. And it's a crescendo that is going to make you, is really really satisfying and classic. It ends with Queen Victoria sort of like floating off into the distance to meet her doom. You would imagine.
I mean, it's a classic kind of Wallace and Gromit plot, isn't it, where we have the evil paymaster who comes and almost seems to get her way, and then at the last moment, she's he or she is meets her match, and
they're thwarted.
Yeah.
Hugh talked about it in his interview. He was like, there's genuinely heartfelt moments in this film that for kids' films are, you wouldn't expect in a kids' film. Now, I don't think this reaches the heights of Inside Out, where I was like...
That is melting your heart away, that film.
Is it Bing Bong or whatever he's called?
Oh, my word. But that made me cry the first time I watched it.
It doesn't reach the heights of Finding Nemo. It doesn't reach the heights of Toy Story 3, which genuinely I actually can't watch. The other day I tried to watch it, I got 20 minutes in and I was crying so much at just 20 minutes. I was like, I actually can't watch this. So unfortunately I don't fully agree with Hugh on that. Maybe it's not meant to be tear jerky though, but it is touching enough. And I think especially I need to keep reminding myself, if you were a child watching this as well, I think you would really, really connect with it and get that. That it is a nice ending where you realise, you know what? And Hugh, at the end, is perfect because Hugh sets off to be the Pirate of the Year. Through different circumstances, he can't get that award. But what he realises the whole time is that doesn't matter. What matters is Polly and my crew. And then once he gets Polly in the crew, he also gets given the Pirate of the Year award as a nice little bonus. But by that point, it doesn't matter. But that's a great message. It's like, it's not about the awards. It's not about the booty.
It's about the journeys and it's about the friendships.
Exactly.
Taking he for granted. Taking he for granted. Taking he for granted. What did you think, lads? Were they taking he for granted?
Right, Diggory. We got to that time once again. Pirates. Band of Misfits, are we taking Hugh for granted?
Absolutely not. Hugh's performance is great. I don't think it's going to get any awards. I referenced Finding Nemo and Toy Story, etc. earlier, and I think, I don't think it's going to reach those dizzy heights, but that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for, is it a good film? Yes. Are you going to be able to sit through this and enjoy it? Yes. Whatever age you are, of course. Is Hugh in it? Yes. Does he get a big role? Yes. Is he good in it? Yes. What more could you want? So, for me, this film is not taking Hugh for granted. What about yourself?
Well, Diggory, this has to go down as another film in the Hugh Naissance. Hugh has tried something new. He's dipped his feet into voice acting, and
Big time.
And he's come away with the full bounty, I can tell you that.
Nice, dude.
And it's a bit of a hidden gem, to be honest, because like I said before, not a film that is gone down in the ages as an absolute classic, but definitely one that have no trouble watching if you just want a casual watch. And I think Hugh did an excellent job of his voice acting, and to be honest, something I'd like to see again in the future. He might feel like he's a bit too old for the be playing the rom-com man these days, but he's definitely not too old to be playing pirate kings or pirate captains in or voice acting, and he's got a good voice for voice acting. I like it.
Yeah, he definitely should do more voice acting, especially now, as I say, he's got kids and stuff. He should be able to. I think he should want to do those films more. I'm sure as he's probably watching a lot more of those with his kids as well. I think he should do more of it. He should maybe pop up as cameos and stuff. Apparently the money's great as well. Go on, Hugh. I reckon more voice acting from you, please. So that concludes another episode. We just wanted to say a big thank you once again to absolutely everyone who's listening. We've fostered such a lovely community.
We really have, and we really have got what I would call a global listenership now.
Yeah.
Recently we've gained some more fans in Sweden. I see that we're leaping up at the charts in Sweden, and in Hong
Yes.
Kong, in Taiwan, in Cambodia, in the Philippines.
Wow.
We're everywhere now. And yeah, big shout out to all those fans also leaving us reviews and sending us nice messages on Instagram. I think Kate, who is somewhere, in it might be Colorado, but correct me if I'm wrong there. And she left us a very nice review the other day saying that she, what did she say? She said that she's happy to know that others share the same love for Hugh and recognise how he's been underappreciated in the film industry. You've hit it bang on the head there, Kate.
Exactly. So, yeah, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook as well. Just type in Taking Hugh for Granted. You'll find us there. And, yeah, just get in contact. We just want to hear from as much of you as often as possible. We just love hearing from you and chatting and getting the good vibes going. But until next time, Oscar, it's been an absolute pleasure. Goodbye, everyone.
As always, Diggory. Goodbye.
Taking Hugh for Granted is produced, edited and presented by Diggory Waite and Oscar Beardmore Gray. The producers of Taking Hugh for Granted would like to state that this podcast is in no way associated with the actor Hugh John Mungo Grant, nor does it endorse his views or represent him in any way. Instead, by creating this podcast, Oscar and Diggory hope to celebrate Hugh's illustrious career, reliving his old classics and shedding light on some of his hidden gems. Hugh, if you're listening, we hope you approve.